In 1969, humanity built the most powerful machine in history, the Saturn V rocket. As tall as a 30-story building, weighing 3,000 tons. But here's what truly boggles the mind. Just to lift off the launch pad, not to reach the moon, but simply to move 1 meter upward, this machine had to burn 20 tons of fuel per second. Think about that. 20 tons of precious resource vanishing every instant just to overcome Earth's pull. Most of that giant tank wasn't used for the journey through space where the rocket glides effortlessly and silently. No, almost all the fuel was spent on the first few minutes of the fight against gravity. Your money works according to the exact same laws of physics. Legendary investor and billionaire Charlie Munger once said a phrase that became cult classic, yet almost no one understands it correctly. He said, "The first 100,000 is a bitch, but you gotta do it. I don't care what you have to do. If it means walking everywhere and not eating anything that wasn't purchased with a coupon, find a way to get your hands on $100,000. After that, you can ease off the gas a little." Munger was talking about 100,000 back in the 90s. Adjusted for inflation, that's $250,000 today. For most people, that number sounds like a mockery, like something unattainable. So let's come back down to earth. We are going to talk about the first $10,000. Why exactly 10? Because this is your Kármán line. This is the boundary where the dense atmosphere of poverty ends and the financial vacuum begins, where movement becomes easier. Many people think the path to wealth is linear. That saving the first 1,000 is just as hard as the second, and the second just as hard as the third. This is a lie. This is a mathematical error, keeping millions of people in a trap. The truth is that the first 10,000 are the heaviest money of your life. They require 80% of all your efforts, even though they make up only 1% of your future capital. You slam on the gas, the engine roars. You are shaking from the G-force, but it feels like you are standing still. The landscape outside the window doesn't change. The debts don't get smaller. This isn't because you are stupid. And it isn't because you aren't trying hard enough. It is gravity, financial gravity. When you have zero in your accounts, the whole world seems to conspire to pull you back down. You have no right to make a mistake. Any accident, a broken tooth, a car crash, job loss, is not just a nuisance. It is a catastrophe that knocks you back into the negative. You aren't just standing still, you are sliding down an escalator that is moving up. But there is good news. Gravity has a limit. As soon as you punch through that first layer, as soon as you reach the orbit of $10,000, the physics change. The rules of the game flip. Today we will break down the mechanics of this liftoff. We won't talk about saving money on lattes. We will engage in the engineering of your capital. We'll look at why poverty is expensive, how the tax on having no money works, and most importantly, how to gather that fuel for the burst when it seems the tank is empty. Welcome to the launch pad. You think the system is broken and rigged against you. The irony is, you are absolutely right. But it works quite differently from how they tell you on the news. There is an old economic saying that sounds like a paradox. It is very expensive to be poor. And this isn't just a figure of speech. It is a mathematical fact. In literature, this is known as the boots theory. Imagine two people. One can afford to buy high-quality boots for $100. They last him 10 years. He spent $100 and forgot about the problem. The second person doesn't have $100. He only has 20. So he buys cheap shoes. They fall apart in a year. The next year, he spends 20 again and again. In 10 years, he will have spent $200 on shoes, twice as much as the rich man. But at the same time, his feet have been wet for all those 10 years. This is the poverty tax. When you have no capital, you lose access to wholesale prices. You can't buy a year's supply of household chemicals at a 50% discount. You simply don't have the spare cash to freeze an inventory. You buy everything in small packages, overpaying for every unit by 1.5 times. But these are trifles compared to what happens in banks. If your account is at zero or negative, the financial system starts hunting you. Overdraft fees, late payment penalties on credit cards, higher insurance rates because your credit score is dropping. A rich person who accidentally forgets to pay a bill just calls the bank. and they waive the fine because he is a valuable client. A poor person pays that fine in full. The system punishes you for the absence of money. And here we come to the scariest mechanism, reverse leverage. When you have those $10,000, any life trouble is simply an expense. Car broke down, you fix it. Tooth hurts, you treat it. Your capital decreased, but you stayed afloat. When you have no money, any problem turns into debt. Car broke down and no money? You take a payday loan or use a credit card. Now the repair doesn't cost $500, but $700, including interest. Can't pay on time? The sum turns into $1,000. At this moment, the bank doesn't just take your money, it takes your time. Every dollar you give away as interest is hours of your life that you worked for but received nothing for. You are working for the past. You are paying for that car repair that happened a year ago instead of saving for a vacation in the future. It's a run on a down escalator. You have to run with all your might just to stay in place. Stop for even a second, and you fly into the negative. The mathematics of poverty is cruel because it is nonlinear. Problems have a habit of compounding. An untreated tooth for $100 today turns into an implant for $1,000 in a year. A skipped car service turns into an engine replacement. The lack of a safety cushion makes every decision in your life more expensive. You can't move to a city with higher salaries because there is no money for rent. You can't change professions because you can't afford not to work for 2 months during training. You are trapped. The walls of this cage are not made of steel, but of simple numbers. But if it were only about math, we would solve this problem with a calculator. The real tragedy begins when the money deficit penetrates deeper into your biochemistry. Math can be defeated with logic, but there is an enemy not so easily seen on paper, because he lives right inside your skull. The biggest lie about money that we are taught from childhood sounds like this. Poor people remain poor because they make stupid decisions. They take loans for weddings, they buy lottery tickets, they don't save for retirement. Seems logical, right? First, you do something stupid, then you lose money. But modern neuroscience claims the opposite. You aren't poor because you make bad decisions. You make bad decisions because you are poor. This state is called decision fatigue. Imagine your willpower and ability to think are a smartphone battery. In the morning, it's charged to 100%. Every decision you make during the day eats up 1% of the charge. For a person with money, daily life is automated. Bills are paid by auto pay. Food is bought via a habitual list. If a faucet breaks, they just call a plumber. They don't waste battery charge on these trifles. For a person without those $10,000, every day is an obstacle course. You stand in the supermarket, buy the cheaper chicken that's about to expire or the fresh one that's more expensive. Charge drops. Pay for the internet today or wait until payday, risking disconnection? Charge drops. Take the bus and be late or call a taxi and go without lunch. Charge drops. By the middle of the day, your mental accumulator is at zero. Your brain is exhausted by the endless arithmetic of survival. And so, in the evening, you walk past a display window with something bright, useless, and expensive. Or you see a fast food ad. You physically do not have the energy to say no. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning the future, is shut down to save energy. Ancient instincts take the wheel, and you buy that thing, you order that pizza. Your brain literally switches into a mode biologists call tunnel vision. In a state of resource scarcity, our mind focuses on only one task: survive right now, here and now. The future ceases to exist. Evolutionarily, this is justified. If a tiger is chasing you, you don't need to think about what you'll eat in a year. You need to run now. Poverty, for the brain, is that same tiger. Chronic stress floods the body with cortisol. That is why it is so hard to start saving the first money. When a financial guru tells you, save 10% for the future, your brain, stuck in tunnel mode, hears, give away a piece of food that you need right now for some stranger you will become in 20 years. This isn't a question of discipline. It's a question of your mental bandwidth. A computer running too many heavy programs begins to freeze. It takes 5 minutes to open folders. A person loaded with thoughts about debt freezes exactly the same way. They forget important dates, make mistakes at work, miss opportunities. It is a vicious circle. Lack of money causes stress. Stress leads to bad decisions. Bad decisions lead to even less money. But this circle can be broken. The key is not to become a superhuman with an iron will. The key is to admit your brain is under siege. And to win, we need to stop relying on willpower and start using cold, ruthless tactics. We move from diagnosis to treatment. Now we know the enemy by face. It's not just numbers, and it's not your laziness. It is gravity and biology. It is time to build the engine that will pull us out of here. Let's put emotions aside and look at the cold mechanics of the process. In financial physics, there is only one formula that matters. It is ridiculously simple, but 90% of people ignore it their whole lives. Income minus expenses equals capital. Everyone is obsessed with the first part of the equation, income. Everyone wants to earn more. Courses, upskilling, finding a new job. This is important. But this won't make you rich. Look at professional athletes or lottery winners. They get millions of dollars in a lump sum. 5 years later, most of them are bankrupt. Why? Because they increased the first part of the equation, but allowed the second part to devour everything without a trace. The secret of the first 10,000 isn't in a high salary. The secret is in the space between your income and your expenses. We call this the gap. Your task is to artificially create this gap and defend it with your life. The enemy of this gap is known. Economists call it lifestyle inflation, but Parkinson's law describes it more accurately. Expenses always rise to meet income. You get a raise of $500. Your brain immediately finds where to park them. A better car, a bigger apartment, more expensive Friday parties. You feel you deserve it. You worked hard, and in that very moment, you kill your capital. You zero out the equation again. To save the first 10,000, you must commit an act of psychological violence against yourself. You must freeze your standard of living. If tomorrow your salary increases, for you, nothing changes. You continue to live as if that raise never happened. You drive the same car, you wear the same clothes, you eat the same food. The entire excess sum is immediately withdrawn from circulation. It doesn't hit your wallet. It doesn't hit the card you use to pay in the store. It disappears into the gap. This is counterintuitive. In the world of Instagram and TikTok, success is the display of consumption. But in the real world of finance, success is stealth. Wealth is what you do not see. It is the car you did not buy. It is the vacation you did not go on. It is the clothes you did not upgrade. Wealth is financial energy that was not converted into things but remained in the battery. It is at the stage from 0 to 10,000 that this principle is critical. Because here, you have no helpers. Compound interest is still sleeping. Investments bring pennies. The only source of growth for your account is your ability to say no to your desires today for freedom tomorrow. It is boring. It is painful. It requires the discipline of a monk. Imagine that you are a company. Any company has revenue and profit. Revenue is your salary. But if a company spends everything it earns on corporate parties and office furniture, it is worth zero. Investors value only profit, what remains in the accounts. You must become the greediest CFO of your own life. You must fall in love with this gap. Look not at new sneakers, but at the number on the account and get dopamine from the fact that it is growing. This is a paradigm shift. You cease to be a consumer of resources and become a base builder. But creating the gap is half the battle. Now, this gap needs to be filled, and if simply saving on coffee isn't enough, we need heavy weapons. We need to clear the rubble of the past to build the foundation of the future. The theory is clear. But in practice, most of us have weights tied to our feet: loans, debts, obligations. Before taking off, we need to cut these cables. Imagine you are building a rocket. You created the perfect hull, found the best engine. But there is a hole in your fuel tank. No matter how much fuel you pour in from the top, it leaks out the bottom. Debts are holes in your financial ship. As long as they exist, gravity acts on you with double force. Interest on consumer loans is anti-income. It is money working against you 24 hours a day. To save 10,000, you must first close the floodgates. And here begins the battle of two philosophies. On one side, pure math. Logic says, pay off the loans with the highest interest rate. This is called the avalanche method. You list all debts, find the most expensive one, usually a credit card, and attack it. This is most profitable in the long run. But we remember that a human is not a logical creature, but an emotional one. Therefore, there is a second way. The snowball method. You ignore the interest rates. You list debts from smallest to largest by amount. Let's say you owe $50 to a friend, $200 for the phone, and $1,000 to the bank. You throw all your forces at those $50. You close the debt in a week. You cross it off the list. Your brain gets a dose of dopamine. I won. I can do this. Then you attack the $200. Another victory. Mathematically, this is incorrect. You will overpay on interest for the big loan. But psychologically, this is the only way that works for most people at the start of the journey. You need these small victories. You need a sense of progress. When you see the list of debts shrinking, you get the energy to continue. The snowball rolls down the mountain, getting bigger and faster. The money that used to go to paying small loans is now freed up and hits the large targets with double force. This isn't accounting. This is war. In war, all means are fair. Therefore, while you extinguish debts, you conduct a brutal audit of your financial defense. Open your card statement for the last 3 months. You will see vampires there. Subscriptions to services you don't watch, a gym membership you don't use, apps that charge $5 a month. It seems like $5 is trivial, but $5 a month is $60 a year. 10 such subscriptions are $600. That is 6% of your $10,000 goal. You give them away just like that, out of inertia. Call your internet provider, call the insurers. Say you want to leave for a competitor. In 80% of cases, they will offer you a discount. This will take 15 minutes of your time and save hundreds of dollars a year. Every dollar you didn't give to the bank as interest or to a corporation as a useless subscription is a dollar you didn't have to work for. These are the easiest money you can earn. We close the holes. The tank is sealed. Now that the leaks are fixed, it's time to turn the pumps on full power. Saving has a limit. You can't spend less than zero. But income has no limit. We need to find money where it seemingly doesn't exist. We switch from defense to offense. To gather the necessary sum quickly, we will have to get our hands dirty and look under our feet. You will be surprised how much money is lying right under your nose. There is a myth that capital is created only by years of hard labor. This is only partially true. Sometimes capital can simply be found. Right now, look around you. Look at your room, at the closets, at the garage or balcony. What do you see? An old bicycle? A guitar you haven't played in 3 years? A box of old phones? A branded jacket that became too small? You see things. A banker sees frozen liquidity. The average household in developed countries stores unwanted items worth between $1,000 and $3,000. These are your first money. You already have them. They just took the form of junk-gathering dust. Your task is to perform an alchemical reaction, turn matter back into energy, into money. This is the fastest way to get the first boost. Selling old junk on online platforms, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, local equivalents, gives you an instant result. $500 over a weekend is realistic. But here, a psychological trap kicks in, known as the endowment effect. It seems to us that our things are worth more than they actually are because they are ours. I bought this for $100 5 years ago. I won't give it away for $20. Forget about it. This item is bringing you zero right now. If you sell it for $20, you get an infinite increase in efficiency. Better $20 in the rocket fund than dead weight on a shelf. By freeing up space physically, you free up mental resources. You start thinking like a minimalist and a capitalist. But a garage sale is a one-time injection of fuel. To get to orbit, you need constant thrust. We need a side hustle. And here it is important to change optics. We aren't looking for a dream job or a calling. We are looking for money. Dirty, fast, honest money. The internet is full of gurus talking about passive income. Forget it. Passive income is a privilege of the rich. When you have zero, your only asset is your time and sweat. You take extra shifts. You drive a taxi in the evenings. You walk other people's dogs. You freelance. You paint fences. Is it hard? Yes. Will you get tired? Absolutely. But remember the context. This is temporary. This isn't your life forever. This is a sprint. You are a rocket at the start, burning fuel by the ton. And here comes the sacred rule of the side hustle. Not a single cent earned on the side should enter your living budget. This money does not exist for you. You cannot buy pizza with it. You cannot upgrade your phone. Every dollar from the side hustle goes directly, bypassing your pocket, into the savings account. Your main salary covers survival. Your side hustle builds wealth. Separate these streams. This changes your attitude toward labor. When you wash a floor or deliver food knowing that this money will go to pay bills, you feel like a slave. But when you know that these specific $50 are a brick in your wall of freedom, work gains meaning. You aren't just washing a floor, you are buying your independence. Debts are being paid off, expenses are clamped in a vise, junk is sold. Additional income drips into the account. The numbers on the screen start to grow. 1,000, 3,000, 5. And then, one day, it happens. You transfer another $200 from the side hustle, open the banking app and see it. 5 digits, 10,000. No fireworks outside the window, no fanfares. The world around remains the same. But inside you, tectonic plates have shifted. First, your biochemistry changes. That tunnel vision we talked about disappears. The cortisol level in your blood drops. You start sleeping better. You start seeing the planning horizon not a week ahead, but years ahead. Second, magic happens in your career. It is a paradox, but people with money earn more money even if they do the same job. Why? Because they don't smell of desperation. When you have zero in your account, you cling to any job. You are afraid to contradict the boss. You agree to unpaid overtime. The employer senses this fear. You are a hostage. But when you have $10,000, that is your safety cushion for 3 to 6 months. If you get fired tomorrow, you won't die of hunger. You won't lose your apartment. This gives you invisible armor. You walk into the boss's office with a straight back. You are calm. You confidently ask for a raise. You refuse toxic tasks. And surprisingly, exactly this behavior commands respect and leads to salary growth. Money gives you a voice. But the most important miracle happens not in the office, but in your investment account. And here, for the first time in history, you stop working alone. Up to this point, every cent of your capital was earned by your sweat, your nerves, and your time. But as soon as you cross the line of 10,000 and invest them, you get an assistant. Imagine that your dollars are little soldiers. While there are few of them, they are useless. But 10,000 is already a small platoon. You send them to war for returns. With an average market return of 8 to 10% per year, your 10,000 will give birth to another $1,000 for you in a year. Just like that. While you sleep. While you eat. While you watch a movie. $1,000 a year. Is that a little? Perhaps. But look at it differently. That is $80 a month. That means your money now fully pays for your internet and mobile connection, forever. You no longer need to work to pay these bills. Your capital does it for you. You have won back a tiny piece of your life from financial gravity. And here, compound interest enters the game. Accumulating the second 10,000 will be easier, because you will again save your income, but now that free $1,000 from investments will join your efforts. The third 10 becomes even easier. The snowball starts rolling on its own. The gravity that used to pull you down now starts working for you, attracting new money to you. The greater the mass of your capital, the stronger its own gravitational pull. This is exactly what Charlie Munger meant. The first 10,000 you pushed uphill with your hands, tearing off your fingernails. After that, the mountain ends and a gentle slope begins. You still have to walk, but the wind is now blowing at your back. You have hacked the system. You have broken out of the rat race where salary equals expenses. Now you are the owner of an asset. But what to do next? After all, $10,000 is still not wealth in the usual sense. You can't buy an island or retire on it. Why did we go through all this hell? The answer is simple. We didn't build a rocket just to hang in orbit. We built it to fly to the stars. And now that the engines are running stably, it's time to look at the entire flight map. $10,000. If you live in New York or London, this money will barely last a few months of modest living. If you want to buy luxury with it, it will last 1 week. It seems vanishingly small, but the value of this money isn't in its purchasing power. The value is in who you became while saving it. Remember where we started? Poverty is gravity. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer, not because the world is evil, but because that is the physics of the process. The inertia of rest holds you at the bottom. To overcome this inertia, you had to change. You had to kill the impulsive consumer inside you and give birth to a cold strategist. You learned to say no. You learned to value your time. You learned to see the difference between price and value. And here's the most important thought of this video. Money can be lost, the market can crash, inflation can eat part of the savings, but the neural pathways you built in your brain during this marathon will remain with you forever. The discipline that allowed you to save the first 10,000 is the same discipline needed to save 100,000, and the same that is needed for 1,000,000. The mechanics don't change anymore. Only the zeros change. But now time works for you. You have reached orbit. This doesn't mean you can turn off the engines and go to sleep. Gravity hasn't gone anywhere. It is still here, waiting for your mistake. If you start spending capital on nonsense, you will crash back down faster than you took off. But now you have the inertia of movement. Your first 10,000 is your proof of reality. Before, you believed wealth was a lottery or inheritance. Now you know it is an engineering problem, a boring, difficult, solvable problem. Life after this mark doesn't become paradise. You still need to work. But the panic goes away. That sticky feeling of hopelessness when you are afraid to open the mailbox with bills goes away. In the place of fear appears the calm confidence of a predator who knows he won't go hungry today. You created your own gap. You launched your snowball. You overcame the densest part of the atmosphere. Next is space. It is cold there, it is empty, but there is no air resistance. And there, in the silence, works the most powerful force in the universe, compound interest. Let your first 10,000 become the foundation that no one can ever take away from you. You did the hardest part. You lifted off the ground. Good luck with the flight.